Hi everyone, it's Lucy from My Crazy Craft Life, and I am here with a Scrapping for Less design team post. I am making those two side step cards that you just saw, and I'm just going to give you a quick tutorial on how to make those side step cards. And I actually left this video at normal speed, well, at least this portion of the video at normal speed, because I really wanted you to see how fast and how easy it is to make these side step cards. Because I know sometimes I look at different things and I think, that seems like it's a lot of work. Now I have an EK Tools scoreboard. I love that scoreboard because it has the 1/8 of an inch marks, all the way down to an 1/8 of an inch mark, and I like that. I know there's all different types of ones out there. I don't know that one's better or another, but what you're doing with this card, it wouldn't matter anyway. I think, honestly, as simple as these cards are, you really could just use your paper trimmer and either use the scoring piece tool with it or just use a stylus between it, because it really is pretty simple. And so I think this video is a little more than 4 minutes long as for this portion of it, and I was able to make 4 card bases in that amount of time. So what you're going to do is you're going to take an 8.5 inch by 5.5 inch piece of cardstock. You are then going to you're actually going to cut. You are going to cut a slit vertically down the card. So the 8.5 inch long ways, that's how you're going to make the slit. You are going to make the slit 1 inch, so 1 inch from the top, to 6.5 inches at 3 inches. So you're going to have one side of the slit is going to be 3 inches, the other side of the slit is going to be 2.5 inches. Now, one thing I do want to say, depending on which way you want your steps, I wanted all of my steps on the right side. I ended up screwing this up, which is another reason why I left this in here, and I wanted it to go slow so that you can see. If you are doing that, you want to make sure that when you cut it, the 1 inch, that it's going to be on the left side of the paper when you're looking down at it. So the 1 inch mark has to be at the bottom end of the paper if you're using pattern paper. If you're using just plain cardstock, it doesn't matter which way because you can just flip it over. But when you're using pattern paper and you go to make the card, like I'm going to do here, and I realize at this point that I did it on the wrong side, so my steps will be on the wrong side. So you want to make sure that when you're cutting it with pattern paper, that the 1 inch part of it is actually on the right side of the paper if you want your steps to be on the right side. Like I said, if you don't care, you want it to be on the left side, then that's fine, you can do it whatever way. But this one turned out this way because of that, because I ended up doing it on the wrong one. And both of the pattern papers that I used, I did it on the wrong side. So just a little note for you to think about when you're doing it so that you don't make the same mistake that I made. But anyway, so after you make your slit in the card, you are then going to take the 3 inch side and you are going to score it at 4 1/4. So this is going to be a standard A2 size card, 4 1/4 by 5.5 when you get done. It will fit in a normal A2 size envelope. So you'll be able to do that with no problem. So after you get the piece, the 3 inch side scored at 4 1/4, you're going to flip it over and make sure that when you do this, you are on the 1 inch side is where you're going to start. So you have the 2.5 inch side, you're down at where the 1 inch mark of the slit is, and you're going to score at 1 inch, at 2 inches, at 3 1/4 inches, at 4.5 inches, and at 6.5 inches. So it will end up meeting up with the slit marks all the way through. And then all you have to do is fold it up. Now when you're folding it, the steps, you're going to start out with the mountain one. So you're going to fold up and then down, up and then down, up and down. So that's what's going to make your stairs. And like I said, it's very, very simple. I was able to make these really, really quick even when I screwed them up. So those are the bases. I end up using that one and the red one because, like I said, I screwed up my pattern paper ones. Here I have my Art Impressions Spring Chicken Stamp Set. And I kind of left this in here too because it was kind of funny, because I want you to watch how many times I end up having to stamp this. I am not exaggerating. I think I stamped it like 25 times before I got any decent impressions. I don't know what was going on. I don't know what my problem was. Because you see here I had both of the images that I was going to use, and I said, okay, well, maybe I just need to use one at a time. I ended up dropping the stamp a couple times on top of the image that I had just stamped. I wasn't getting a clear stamp. I changed my inks, thinking maybe, I don't know. I don't know what was going on. I don't know what my problem was. I don't know why I couldn't stamp an image to save my life, but I couldn't. So I think out of all of those images that I stamped, I ended up with 3 images that were actually clear images that I could use. So yeah, like I said, I don't know. I don't know what my problem was. But the next section then, I just to start coloring. I decided I was going to use my alcohol markers to do coloring, and I used a bunch of different ones. Now, I like art impressions because art impressions give you kind of a coloring scale or code or whatever you want to say. The pictures on there, it really does show you kind of everything that you need to do. It gives you your shading so you don't have to guess at anything. Now, for these 2 cards, I decided I wanted to use a couple other stamp sets. So I ended up using the Stampendous rubber stamps with, it's called Trains, and it had that cupcake and the present in it. And then I ended up using Perk Up from the Greeting Farm, and that was actually a set that we got in a past Flavor of the Month kit. So I was able just to keep that and use it. Now I also wanted to say, so on the back of those images with using the alcohol markers, they end up, they bleed through and you can see it. So what I actually did was just took some Eclipse paper and I popped it on the back of it so that it kind of covered that up before I cut them out. And then I used my scan and cut to cut them out. Now this is where I start to I just got a bunch of different pattern papers that I have, and I was deciding how I wanted to decorate them. So I have all my images cut out there. Like I said, I used the scan and cut. I used a couple stitched oval die and a stitched rectangle die to cut the images of the chickens out. And then I was just kind of figuring out which papers I wanted to go with which card and how I wanted them to look. So what I did was I kind of layered the stairs, and then I layered the large portion. So that's 3 inches. The large portion of the card is 3 inches by 4 1/4. So I made that 1/4 of an inch less. So I just made the pieces kind of to fit in there, and I cut 1/4 of an inch off of each size just so that they would kind of frame it out with the red. Then because the oval stamp and that stamp was so large with the 3 chickens in it, I ended up cutting 1/2 an inch off of the steps, and it didn't make any difference because I wanted it to still fit inside of an A2 size envelope. So I wanted to make sure that it fit in there. So because the large image was hanging off about 1/2 an inch, I then just cut 1/2 an inch off of the steps, and like I said, it worked out perfectly and still fit perfectly into the envelope. So like I said, for this one I used the sentiment, here's a little coop cake to help celebrate your birthday. And I popped those images just on there. I used a background that I just made a little bit bigger that I ended up covering up the whole inch kind of step, that very first step there. But I just thought that looked better with it on there like that. And then I just decided which present and cupcake I wanted that was going to make the most sense with the coloring. And I just popped those up there. I really did not do a lot more to these cards. I did end up putting some Spectrum Noir Sparkle. So that is the first card that I made. The second one, I was making that coffee one, and like I said, I ended up having some embellishments also from an older Flavor of the Month kit. I actually think it was a different kit than the one that the Greeting Farm stamp set came with, but I ended up using some of those. Like I said, I know I've been really big into clearing out my stash. Not that that is ever going to happen because I have so much, but I am really, really trying to clean out my stash. And the pattern paper, this coffee pattern paper, is actually from a previous Flavor of the Month card kit too. It was actually from a couple different ones. One was that one that had the Greeting Farm stamp in it, and then from another, believe it was the whole kit that was all a coffee kit. So I still had some of that paper left, and I'm, like I said, trying to use up all of my stash and not get anything else. It also, like I said, had some ephemera that was in there, and those are the little images, the coffee cups, and then the like Frappuccino, whatever thing there. That one I loved, that sentiment. That is me. I do not drink coffee. However, I do feel that way about being up early. They can have the worm. I'll be there later. I'll drink Pepsi. That's my drink of choice is Pepsi as opposed to coffee. But yeah, that's what I do. So here, if you look closely, you will see the large piece that I put on the front of the card is actually crooked. And as you have now seen throughout the card, I have nothing but issues, so I was kind of done at this point, and I was not starting over. So I decided to put the chicken image on, kind of cockeyed, so that it kind of matched the fact that I messed it up. Now you'll see there they have those little bobby pin looking things. I never know what those are or how to use them on cards. We get them a lot in the kits. So I stuck one in there. I'm not sure if that's what it's supposed to do, but that's what I did. So those are my two cards. I'm sorry. I used my Spectrum Noir Sparkle pen on it as well, just in a few areas. But those are my two cards, and that I made for the Scrapping for Less design team post. And thank everyone for joining me, and I hope everybody has a great day.